Tell Me More podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. My name is Olivia Molly Rogers and I'm excited to get comfortable in the uncomfortable with you and remind you that nobody is perfect and everybody has something going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome back to Tell Me More. Today we are joined by Bree Lenehan. Bree is your online BFF who is passionate about all things self-love and positivity. She has amassed a very loyal following of close to 2 million people across Instagram, TikTok and YouTube by sharing her journey with everything from body image, confidence, realistic health, lifestyle, farm life and most recently her pregnancy journey. Bree aims to have a positive impact online, spreading the message of loving yourself and the body you are in. Bree, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And it's always like, how do I take all these compliments? And I'm aware this is the first time we're meeting as well. So I just want you to know I think you're wonderful and I'm just really glad to be here. So thank you.
Oh, you're so lovely. Thank you. I have been following you for quite some time. I was trying to think back to how or when it was exactly that I came across your profile. I think it might have been 4 years ago, maybe even longer. But from what I remember, your page was quite different. I will get you to explain your journey, but I remember it being a transformation from like your body had changed. You had become more confident and you were showing that transition. But I feel like it has shifted since then. Not to say that the messaging was similar, like it was always positive. But yeah, can you tell me a bit about your journey with your body?
Wow, I hadn't realized that you'd been around for so long.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
No worries. It's been fun.
I think I started social media about 4 years ago. So you would have been here really from the start of my self-acceptance journey. But really, my whole relationship with my body image kind of started when I was about 10 years old. And I vividly remember being at school and my teacher called me up to the front of the class to do some sort of assignment. And I remember her telling me to suck my belly in because it wasn't ladylike to have my tummy sticking out. And that was kind of the point where I became really aware of the way that I came across to other people.
Wow, that is awful.
And that just kind of snowballed as I got older over the years, obviously exposed to a lot of different messages, like when I'm in the line at the cash register and there's lots of magazines and there were just like vile headlines of women's bodies on the front page. So there was a lot of messaging that I was soaking up that really impacted me from a really young age. And it kind of continued into high school where I was struggling with my self-esteem. I was carrying a little bit of extra weight. I was teased and bullied a little bit throughout my schooling experience. It wasn't too bad, but yeah, I definitely experienced judgment on the way that I looked. And after school, I would always binge eat, and that relationship with food, my body image, continued up until even when I entered adulthood. I tried basically all of the fad diets that existed ever. So that meant that my weight was fluctuating quite a lot and I was really struggling with the way that my body looked and my self-worth being attached to that. And it wasn't until, I guess, 2018 when I was the heaviest that I've ever been that I call it like my final extreme fad diet. I didn't know it at the time, but it was going to be the last one that I ever did. And what happened was I was extremely restricting my food intake and over-exercising. I ended up losing 20 kilos, becoming underweight. And I really my health really started to suffer at that point because I stopped getting my period. One of my legs from the knee down was numb. So I even struggled to like walk because I couldn't feel when my foot was touching the ground. yeah, my health was really suffering because I just became so underweight. My metabolism was at an all-time low. I had barely any muscle left on my body, and I was sharing this online, and I guess I was receiving a lot of praise because of the weight loss transformation, because I don't know, this was about five years ago now, and that was really prevalent, transformations and weight loss and people asking me what I was doing. And so I thought I was doing the right thing and I wanted to keep going, but because my health was suffering, it wasn't really something that I could do. Otherwise, I would have been hospitalized. And it wasn't until then that I had this light bulb moment that I still wasn't happy, even though I was at the lowest weight I've ever been in my life, even though I couldn't physically lose any more weight. Otherwise, I would have really struggled with my health. That I realized the problem that needed fixing wasn't actually my weight or my body. It was my mindset and my relationship with my body image and food and fitness. And that triggered me working with a fitness coach who helped me to eat more, gain weight, and keep me accountable throughout that process, because that was really scary. It went against everything that I've wanted to do so far. And she really helped me learn more about my body, nutrition, how to take care of myself, my body's needs and things like that. And at that same time is when I started working on accepting my changing body and just trying to get used to the fact that my body is always going to be changing and I'm always going to be stuck on this roller coaster of shame if I don't fix the way that I'm speaking to myself, loving myself, accepting myself. Yeah, that kind of prompted the whole change, and that was about 5 years ago.
That sounds like it's been a real journey, and I can relate to a lot of your story. I think when you attach your worth so much to your size, when you get to the point where you are really small and you're what you always thought would be your dream body and you don't feel happy, it's such a conflicting place to be. I heard someone recently say
Absolutely.
that, it's never going to be your dream body if it's a nightmare to maintain.
Yes, that is so true.
So spot on. Yeah, because if you're torturing yourself, which it sounds like you were, like the fact that your leg was numb, how did that even happen?
I actually went to the doctors about that at the time because I had no idea. I was oblivious. I always thought that losing weight, exercising, eating as little as possible was like a good thing. It's really not. My body was undernourished, and because I was exercising so much, it caused my leg from the knee down to be numb. They told me that I had to stop exercising so much. It was just due to punishing my body too severely.
It's awful. You poor thing. So when you started sharing your journey, you were sharing it in like a weight loss transformation kind of perspective, right?
Yes, I was. It was awful now when I think back at it, but I really thought that was inspiring and I thought it was helping people. I didn't have a following at the time. I was more just sharing it kind of to my friends and family who followed me from high school days. But yeah, I was still posting that picture perfect, posed, edited version of myself. And I think because of that, it just created so much pressure for me to show up that way and be that person.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was before I started the self-acceptance journey. But yeah, I was posting. My Instagram has gone through a whole rebrand from when this all happened. Absolutely.
Do you remember the first time you shifted from that kind of messaging that was like before and after in that way to what it is now?
Yeah, I do. I believe it was actually my Real Me Monday series that I still post every week to this day. I decided to do that for a bit of exposure therapy because, like I said, I was posting my picture perfect self, my posed photos, my edited photos. There wasn't a photo that I uploaded that wasn't edited up until that point.
Wow.
It was so severe. And I think I realized that if I could just post my real self, like me with cellulite or me with rolls, or even just a photo that no one else would even notice anything, but I do, then it would help me to feel less afraid to be seen in real life the way that I am. If I put myself out there and showed those things, then I couldn't be ashamed of them in real life. I think it just puts so much pressure on myself if I was trying to be perceived as perfect and then I didn't feel like I was that in real life. So yeah, I started posting my Real Me Monday series every Monday. It started out, like if I look back now, I'm like, oh, honey, there's like a tiny little dimple on your leg, or there's like no stomach to be seen. But those were real insecurities that I had. And that's why I do believe now, like, you really can't judge a book by its cover. If someone's putting themselves out there, it might not be your version of, I don't know, body positivity, but to them, they're putting themselves out there. They're being authentic. They're being real. They're showing something that they otherwise would have hidden. And I think, that was the start of it. And it's just kind of snowballed from there. And that's still a series that I post to this day. I think that was about 3 or 4 years ago when I started posting that.
What was it that motivated you to share it publicly at first?
At first, it was purely the exposure therapy of just thinking, if I put these photos out there, then I was hoping it was going to make me more comfortable with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely daunting at first, but it helped. And I think once I started posting like my stomach rolls or my loose skin or my cellulite or flabby arms, pimples, whatever it was, I started finding that people who were following me found a lot of value in that it was helping them, encouraging them, and empowering them. And because of that, it really encouraged me to, like, it was a lot more meaningful and purposeful than what I was sharing before, which was seeking that kind of validation. Whereas this felt more like I was doing something for other people and helping them, which also kept me accountable as well on my own journey with self-acceptance, to just keep going, keep diving deeper into it, be more vulnerable, and share my body's changes as I continued to learn to love myself.
I love that. Have you experienced any negativity? Like, from what I've seen, I think your audience absolutely adores you, and that's why it has grown so much in such a really such a short space, a short amount of time. But have you experienced pushback on what you post? Because I know from my personal experience, when I've spoken about body image, people can take it the wrong way when you are still living in, an able body that is straight sized, and, we both live in privileged bodies, and also what society deems to be, an acceptable body, I suppose. Do you deal with any negative 100%. Backlash? Yeah.
Yeah, I have 100%, especially when my posts reach a wider audience, like if they go viral and it's reaching people who don't necessarily know my heart or my journey with my body image. And I think it's totally valid. I think that I can't represent or speak for all body types, all people's experiences. I know that I am in a very privileged body. I experience thin privilege. I never go to the store and can't find my sizing. So I know that I am just one person, one voice out there, and there's enough space for everyone. And I'm just hoping that people will feel the same way. And I know that I had just remind myself that my content won't be for everyone, and that is totally fine. There's a lot of amazing creators out there that might be more suited to them. And I guess I just try to not let it discourage me from sharing what I share, because I think there are people out there who find value in it, and I can just be one more person on their feed that positively impacts their day. And that's all I'm trying to be. I'm not trying to help everyone, although I would love to. I am not the right person for that, and I'm very aware of it. So, yeah, I definitely do experience those negative comments. But I will say I'm very thankful that I do have a mostly kind and understanding and just wonderful audience. But yeah, I try not to let the good sink in too much, because if I do, then the bad sinks in just as much as well. So I'm just trying to stay authentic to myself. And if people get offended by that, then I know I'm not doing anything to harm anyone. And my intentions are positive. So yeah, there's not much more I can do, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a really important perspective. Do you think that it's taken time for you to get to that point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still struggle with it sometimes, but I just tell myself that over and over. It used to get to me a lot, to a point where I thought, I don't even think I should do this anymore. Maybe I'm not the right person to do this. But yeah, I think that there's enough space for everyone. And I'm just sharing the kind of thing that I wish I saw more of when I was struggling myself. So that's my goal, really.
Now, could you share a personal story or experience that you feel significantly shaped your views on your body and self-love?
Yeah, there are so many different experiences that have had that kind of impact. But I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing for me was when I was in my thinner body and I thought that being thinner meant I would be healthy. And in fact, it was when I was struggling with my health the most. It was when I was struggling with my self-esteem the most, when I was seeking validation externally the most. And I still wasn't happy. I still didn't feel my own worth. I still didn't feel beautiful. And I think it's really important to remember that the self-worth comes from yourself. And it's not until you can tap into your vulnerability and ask yourself what you really need and what really matters to you that you can love yourself and just realize how wonderful you are. It doesn't matter how many people are telling you that you're wonderful and you're amazing. That stuff isn't actually what fills your cup.
Are there any moments that you can pinpoint, like you said, that that teacher told you to suck your stomach in? I know that around the same age, I was living in a bigger body at school as well, and I had so many people make little comments that they probably didn't think twice about, but they sunk in so much, and I can remember all of them to this day. Were there any other moments like that when you were, initially trying to lose weight and, change your body, that those moments would stick with you?
I think one of the key things that stand out to me, and it's hard to talk about because it involves my mum and the influence that she had on me growing up. And it wasn't intentional. And I'm very aware of that because I know that my mum was just a girl like me, struggling with her relationship with food and body image. And it was never anything that was meant to cause harm. I just want to preface it by saying that, that my mum's always been well intentioned. But as a young girl who really looks up to her mum, I was very aware of the way that she spoke to herself and the kind of food that she ate. She would make herself steamed broccoli and chicken every night, and she would go to the gym every single day, and she would stand in the mirror and talk about her cellulite and her body. And we have very similar body types. So yeah, and then at dinner, she would be making us spaghetti bolognese and, we could just kind of eat whatever. And I became very aware that, maybe I look like this and I'm carrying extra weight because I'm eating that. And maybe I should be eating this and I should be doing what mum's doing. And just seeing her talking about her body that way, it broke my heart, but equally impacted the way that I spoke about myself as well. And that's something that I am so aware of now that I'm pregnant myself, that it's very normalized. And I think that it is not innate hating yourself. It's something that's taught. It's taught in the media, like I said, with all the magazines and now with social media as well. It's something that's taught. And so I really want to be a role model for my children growing up, that instead of our go-to being tearing ourselves apart, it's being kind to ourselves and showing ourselves grace. That's something that's going to be really big for me, and I think really healing for me as well. And I won't be perfect by any means, but yeah, that was one of the experiences that stood out to me for sure. And there were a lot of experiences in school. Have Have you seen the movie? Is it called the Duff? Yeah, I always felt like that friend at school. My friends are beautiful. I think they're all beautiful, but they got a lot of attention and I didn't ever. I never had a boyfriend. It just wasn't something that happened. And it was very prevalent to me. And I did have a big crush on a guy in high school. And I remember taking a toilet break in class because I wanted to walk past his room. I wanted him to see me and then think about me, you know, the things we do in high school. And as I walked past, I went to the bathroom, and then on the way back, I heard a lot of people giggling and laughing, and they were talking about how I had a crush on him, and I heard him call me. It was something along the lines of he was calling me like a fighter fish, like I look like a fighter fish, because at the time I had an underbite. So I'll give a visual example. My top teeth sat below, like my top jaw sat below my bottom, like behind, like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I had a very crowded mouth. So it was a lot of, they called me jumble teeth. There were a lot of things that were mentioned. They were talking about how I was chunky and chubby, and he basically was laughing and saying that he would never be interested in a girl like me. And I think a couple of weeks later, he was like dating one of my friends who was clearly you could just see how visually different we were. And it became very clear to me what I wasn't and what they were. And I think that really stuck out to me as, you know, I need to change to be likable. Yeah, there were a lot of examples like that in school, out of school, small experiences, social media, that all impacted the way that I view myself and stand out to me. But I think honestly, it's everywhere, unfortunately.
I think too, you know, you're a bit younger than me, but growing up, you know, watching Disney movies, it was like the male gaze and being liked by a guy or seen to be beautiful by a guy is the ultimate goal. So then if you're not, like,
it's everything.
What's the point? Yeah, which is so tragic. One of your posts that you recently shared that went really viral was exactly around that, right? Like how Disney depicts princesses and villains.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. I did post that recently. It was just basically about the beauty standards that we've been exposed to from a really young age. Disney princesses with their teeny tiny waists, you wouldn't be able to fit any internal organs in there. I know it's not
they've had several ribs removed.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then a lot of the villains were in much bigger bodies. A lot of the princesses had these tiny little button noses, and the villains would have really interesting, unique shapes. And I think that it's maybe not intentional, but it is subliminal and subconscious messaging that does impact the way that we view ourselves. If we have unique features or bigger features, it makes sense that we would look at ourselves like, oh, maybe this is a bad thing, rather than the beautiful princess that gets the guy and everyone thinks is beautiful.
Yeah, it's awful. I think some of what I see to be your most powerful posts, and I think your audience obviously agrees because they seem to be the ones that perform the best, is when you do talk about, you know, what the media has fed us over the years and the messaging around that, and how it just makes so much sense really that we have thought about our bodies the way that we have.
I know. I think that was one of the big things for me. And I think from a really young age, we're just sponges. We're soaking up the messaging, the influences, the behaviors around us. There's so much exposures and representation in the media that is going to negatively impact the way we view ourselves. And then on top of that, we have family and peers speaking about their bodies, other people's bodies. And I don't think it's until we reach our young adult years, early 20s, maybe even later, that we start to reflect and make our own decisions up. But by that time, we've already taken in so much messaging from the media that it makes it almost, or at least it makes it feel almost impossible to be kind to yourself and like the body that you're in.
And I think what you said before too about the way that your mum spoke about her body, you know, that bleeds into how you speak about your own body. And you think that, I think when you've been bullied, and I experienced this, is like if you speak negatively about your body, you say it first so that then no one else can say it first. Like I would sort of set myself up in a way where I'm like if I diss myself, then you can't say it to me. But then what happens is you're just constantly criticizing yourself, even if no one else is, and you're just speaking very badly to yourself. And like you can't hate yourself into changing.
No, that is very true.
How did you change the way that you started speaking to yourself? Because I feel like for me that's taken a lot of therapy. But yeah, I would love for you to share some tips on how you were able to sort of change that narrative.
I think at first it started with me just acknowledging when I'm speaking to myself negatively, because I was doing it all the time without even realizing. And then it would continue to snowball throughout the day. One negative moment about my body would just turn into looking in the mirror and listing all of the things that I don't like about myself. So I think the first thing that really helped me was actually acknowledging what I was doing, making it more of a conscious thing, and then just it sounds so much easier said than done, but like just saying no, like I am not going to feed into that narrative. I'm not going to give that thought any more time. And then as I got on, I started to introduce some positive, like twisting it into a positive. And that doesn't mean I have to say, I love my belly when I don't. Because saying that isn't going to do anything unless you actually mean it. It was just more so then focusing on something that I do like about myself, or even if I can't think of something visually like, oh, I like my nose or something like that. I think it's actually more important to focus on what we're thankful for. So if I was being hard about my legs, my cellulite, or my thighs, I would then twist it into, you know what, I am really, really thankful to have a healthy, functioning body. My legs take me where I need to go, and I'm so thankful for that. And just focusing on that has really helped. And doing that over time, it's actually gotten to the point where my body doesn't naturally, for the most part, go somewhere negative. It goes somewhere positive, which has taken years, and those negative thoughts still do arise. But my natural way of dealing with them is to switch it into something more thankful and positive, or just stop feeding into that language about myself as soon as I notice it. It's helped so much.
I did wonder, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations again on being pregnant. So exciting.
Thanks. Thank you.
I feel like a lot of people, women who have experienced issues with eating and their body changing, and have potentially come to a better place in terms of accepting how their body is. I think that there is a lot of fear around becoming pregnant and your body changing, and sort of releasing the control again, I suppose. Have you struggled with that at all? And how do you deal with that if you have negative thoughts?
It's definitely reared its head. My body is changing every day. I wake up and look in the mirror and I'm like, this isn't the body that I know for the last couple of years. And then when I go to the doctors, if they ask me to hop on the scales, because they like to see just how everything's tracking and that baby's gaining healthy weight and everything like that. And the weight is going up, the sizes are slowly creeping up, and it's all very new. And I think for a really long time, all of those things would have told me, this is not a good thing. You need to remedy it. You need to do something about this. And I think it is tricky to watch my body change, but I I don't know. I find it really fascinating.
Yeah.
That my body is doing this and that it is a miracle. And I already knew that my body was going to change. I'm going to age. If I'm lucky, it might be a little old lady one day with wrinkles and saggy everything. And what will I do then if I'm still judging myself harshly?
Yeah.
I think I just am trying my best to embrace the changes. It's definitely keeping me accountable the whole pregnancy journey and then also the postpartum journey. Keeping it real online keeps me so accountable and from falling back into the same thought patterns, I think, which is something I'm very thankful for. But yeah, as of right now, I am just seeing it as a miracle. And I'm so thankful because we were trying to fall pregnant for a little while there. So I think that was a nice reminder that I might not have been in this position right now. And so everything that comes with it, I welcome with open arms. Doesn't mean it won't come without its challenges. I know postpartum, I hear that your body will just never look the same again. And that's where my expectations are at. I'm not expecting my body to ever look the way that it did before. And I'm just going to continue those practices, the self-love practices that I have done over the last few years. And try to be kind to myself. But I know that there will be times where challenges arise and things are triggered and I might not feel as comfortable in my skin as I once did. But I just kind of know that that's the roller coaster of life. And I'm really lucky if I get to experience that. So yeah, again, if you come back and ask me this in a year, it might be completely different, but I'm feeling really hopeful about it.
I think it's a really good approach. And I think also just acknowledging that like it's okay to have those thoughts where you don't feel comfortable. Like two things can be true, right? Like you can be so grateful that you are pregnant and that your body is growing this baby. But doesn't mean you're going to feel comfortable all the time with it.
I think it's a very human emotion. I don't think it would be realistic to assume that I'm going to be completely comfortable and confident in my body at all times for the rest of my life now. I think this journey is not linear. And having those thoughts, those negative feelings and emotions, they're okay. That's part of being human, but I don't want to let myself feed into that or sit in that more than I should. I don't want it to control my life anymore. And I don't know, like girl power, claiming back the narrative. That's my goal.
So other than, being able to acknowledge when you're speaking a bit more negatively to yourself, are there any other self-love practices that you find really helpful that you would recommend to other people?
A big thing that comes to mind is social media. It's a massive thing in our daily lives. I don't know about you, but I spend hours on social media every day. It is my job, but look, I'm not going to lie. I do love a scroll. And I think it's really important to carefully curate your online space. So that might mean deleting it if it's something that feels really negatively impactful and toxic to you, or unfollowing people who do make you feel worse about yourself and seeking out people who are going to make you feel more comfortable in your skin. That has made a massive difference to me. My social media experience is a mostly positive one now. It's full of diversity, things that bring me joy, positive role models, people that just keep me feeling really positive about myself and my life. And yeah, I just follow a lot of people who align with me. And I think that helps. And because I don't experience FOMO as much anymore. She's still there, but
that's good.
And then outside of that, I think it makes it a lot easier to come from a place of love if you're treating yourself with love. And what I mean by that is I do think it is important to nourish your body well with foods that are I'm trying to find the right words for it because I always struggle with that. But foods that make you feel good and nourish your body, as well as the foods that you love as well. I think it's a balance. But yeah, I think if you're nourishing your body with yummy, delicious,
like whole foods,
balanced foods.
Yeah.
And then also moving your body and treating yourself with love and putting effort into like your skincare or whatever it is, those little practices make a big difference. It's a lot easier to come from a place of love instead of hate if you're actually looking after yourself. Because for a long time, I wasn't doing any of that. And it made it almost impossible to, I don't know, just love myself because my actions weren't doing it. It was all talk.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned before that you have a younger sister, I think before we started recording, and she's 13, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I've got a younger sister as well. She's now 16. And when yeah, she's such a sweetie. But I think sort of learning to love and accept myself has been easier with her in mind. It's almost like if you think about what you would recommend for your sister or how you would speak to her, and if she came to me and she was saying negative things about herself that I would say to myself, like how would I combat that for her? Because it's crazy how we can know all of these things to be true, but then still look at ourselves and be so critical. But you would never talk to your younger sister like that.
No, absolutely. And I think she actually really does remind me of my younger self so much too. So it breaks my heart to ever think if she could possibly look at herself that way or talk to herself that way, because she's so beautiful and young and innocent and pure and just the best ever. And it would break my heart to think that she might be talking to herself that way. And so what I do love is that she is a confident queen. She is, she thinks that she is the bee's knees, and as she should. I love that for her, and she inspires me. And I do think that, it has been a massive driver for me to never speak about myself negatively or say anything about food negatively around her, or just anything about weight or looks or any type of importance on the way that I look in front of her, because I never want her to feel that way. And it's the kind of thing that I wish I heard more of when I was growing up as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree that if she were to come to me and say the kind of things that I felt about myself at that age, I don't know. It would just absolutely break my heart.
Yeah. It's crazy to think the things that we would just so easily say to ourselves, though, and how different it can be. If you had someone
I know,
like your sister or, one of your followers come to you and ask how to get out of a, cycle of negative self-talk and what, what you think that they should do to break that cycle, is there anything that you can recommend?
The thing with negative self-talk is I heard this from someone else. I can't remember where I heard this from, but that our bodies are always, our brain is always looking for evidence to confirm what we tell it. So if the narrative in our mind is, I'm not good enough, I'm too big to go to that event, I'm so ugly, I'm so gross, I'm not smart enough, our brain is going to cherry pick any evidence throughout our lives to confirm that that is true.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to just go out into your days being really intentional with the reality that you are creating for yourself. If you're telling yourself, I am worthy, like, for example, before this podcast, I struggle a little bit with social anxiety. And that means that I second guess everything that I say after a social interaction. I really want to come across the way that I feel represents me and feel understood. And so before this podcast, I felt that my heart was pounding. And you would think that I would be used to like putting myself out there, but it's no, it's a good thing. It's good to get yourself out of your comfort zone. But just being completely honest, I was really nervous about how I was going to word things, if I was going to come across the right way, all of those things. And I found myself telling myself like, oh, maybe I'm not the right person for this. Maybe I'm not going to be able to word things the way that I want to? What if I don't provide value to anyone? And I started to switch that around because I was very aware that the narrative that I tell myself, I'm then going to go out and throughout this podcast be confirming to me like that wasn't good. I didn't like the way I answered that, all of those things. And so I started breathing really slowly and telling myself, I don't need to be perfect. This doesn't need to be perfect. I am good enough. I just want to share my story. And if it impacts one person or someone else can relate to it, like that is good enough for me. And I just kept saying to myself, like, I've got this. I've got this. And I could feel my heart like just slowing and to the point where I became really calm. And I think it is so powerful the way that you speak to yourself and the narrative that you feed yourself every day, because your brain is always listening. Your body is always listening and reacting to it. And I think it's really important as well that going into the journey of trying to be kinder to yourself and accept yourself is to remember that you're worth the time and effort. Because I think a lot of us, if we're struggling with self-worth, we don't think that we're worth even trying to make things better. So I would want them to just remember that they are worth the time and effort, that they can reach a point where they are comfortable with themselves and that they deserve that.
That's such good advice. And thank you so much for being honest about that. I think it's a perfect example of, how you can be talking to yourself so negatively. Like the truth is you wouldn't be on this podcast if I didn't think that you had an important message to share with people. Like it wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? Like, but I love the way that you were able to sort of coach yourself around to that point, because I experience that all the time as well. I think it's very common that, imposter syndrome. Oh my God. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what this whole podcast is for, right? It's touching on those vulnerable subjects from people who you otherwise would probably think have their shit together. I don't think that I would ever expect that you would struggle with imposter syndrome, or I know that it's a very human thing, but from the outside, you just think, no, she's confident, she's got this. So I think it's really cool to talk about that in that way.
Oh, I love when people are being honest and vulnerable. That's, like you said, the whole point of the podcast. I just want people to share all of their vulnerabilities because we all have them. And it's so easy to assume that someone is different based off of social media and, get caught in that trap of comparison and thinking that, oh, they can do that, but I could never possibly do that. And I think too, like what you're doing,
absolutely,
you are always being very vulnerable and honest online, but it is your safe space. Like you're the author of what you're putting out there.
Yes.
So it's always going to be daunting when you're in a different forum where you're not controlling the whole thing because, like you said, the messaging might not come off exactly as you intend it to. Whereas when you're writing it yourself, it's very different. But you're doing a great job.
If I don't word things perfectly here at home, I can just press the stop record button and start again.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's a one take. You've just got to hope for the best. But I think the old me, if I wasn't taking my own advice, would have probably declined even coming on the podcast, or just thinking like, I'm not the person for this, or I'm not good enough for this. But that believing that I am worth it, getting out of my comfort zone, all of the things that I talk about online is why I wanted to show up and actually do this today. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it is for sure something that I struggle with. And that I guess I'm just trying to walk the walk and do all of the things I felt and believed that I couldn't do before.
Well, I'm really grateful that you said yes. I would love to know what impact do you hope that your content has on your audience regarding their self-esteem and body image?
My goal isn't to change the world, although I think that would be amazing. I don't know that I'm the person cut out for that. I can just be a little voice. A little safe corner of the internet is all I'm hoping to be and all I'm trying to be, to just hopefully chip away at that negative inner critic over time and be a consistent voice that leaves you feeling better online instead of worse. Because I think that there are a lot of things that we'll scroll past that can negatively impact us. And my goal is really just to help people feel more accepting and loving towards themselves. And I know that it's going to take a whole lot more than just seeing my post. But if I'm just one person in their journey, then I'm so happy with that. And I think that means the world to me.
Like I said before, you're doing an amazing job. And I think that messaging is very, very clear in what you're doing. Now, I wrap up every episode with a segment called Oranges and Lemons. So if you're able to share your orange, that's something positive that's happened, a little bit more sweet. And it could be today, it could be in the last couple of days. And then your lemon is something a little bit more negative or sour. So you might want to start with that.
Okay, I think that my orange and my lemon actually work hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I could talk about them at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of like it's a bittersweet orange and lemon medley.
Okay.
So my orange is that, and it's unrelated though to body image. Is that okay?
Yeah, it can be anything.
Okay. My orange is that I have just recently started feeling my sun kick, which has been the coolest experience ever, and also equally the weirdest experience ever. I keep thinking that it's gas, but I'm like, no, that's a whole baby in there. And then my lemon that goes with that is that whenever like a big milestone in my life happens, the first person and the person that I want to share it with is my grandma. And my grandma passed just over a year ago now. And she knew that we wanted to start a family. And so everything that I experience, like every new experience that I have in this pregnancy, I just want to share it with my grandma and talk to her about it straight away. So that is my lemon. But my orange, I guess, is that if she has any power over being with me and, watching over me, I know that she's the first one to know every time. So that does bring me like a sense of comfort. But yeah, the whole experience itself is just all very new, very exciting, and I'm very thankful for it.
What was your grandma's name?
Her name was Denise.
Oh,
Niecy.
I'm sure she is watching. I like to think that too about my grandparents. Like, yeah, you do want to tell them everything and all of the exciting things, but it is nice and comforting to think that they just know. I feel like they just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just know. She's probably telling him to kick me, so.
Yeah, probably. She's like, I'm here. My lemon is a weird one. I'm sitting here. I've been holding my fingers constantly because I slept on my arm weirdly. I should probably go to the doctor now that I'm saying this out loud. I slept on my arm when I was flying home from Dubai. And you know when you like your hand goes a bit numb? The feeling hasn't really come back. So that's a lemon. I can't feel my last two fingers. Yeah, I should go to the doctor. Anyway, that's my lemon.
How long has it been?
It was actually, I think it was on the way to Dubai. So it's been like 10 days. 2 weeks.
Oh, that might be a problem, love.
Might be a problem, love. I know when you were saying your leg went numb, I'm like, that's my hand. Anyway.
Yeah, have you been doing a lot of exercising with these hands?
No, it's my left hand, so she doesn't do much.
It should be good.
Yeah, we'll be fine. And then my orange is that I can see and smell spring. Like I feel like it's here and I'm so excited. Melbourne winter is always a slog and we've gotten through it. And yeah, I feel like everyone gets a little spring in their step.
My favorite season.
Yeah, the mood all round shifts. So it's been, exciting. I like it.
No, I love that one. I'm a spring girly through and through. I have a garden. And so spring is like, it just makes my heart so happy seeing all the flowers, like everything just flourishing. I'm so excited.
I love that. I love your farm content. On that note, I would love for you to let me know where everyone can find you. How can they look you up and see all of your wonderful content?
Oh, well, I'm most active on my Instagram. I would love to invite you over there to be friends on my little safe corner of the internet. I'm also active on TikTok and YouTube. And if you just type in my name, Bree Lenehan. You should be able to find me. Yeah, I would love to have some more friends on there if you'd find some value in my content.
Definitely. And we'll pop it in the show notes as well. But thank you so much. You're an absolute joy to talk to and a joy to follow. You do definitely have this safe, lovely way about you. And I always love seeing you pop up in my feed. So it's been a pleasure having you on today. Thank you, Bree.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. The feeling is so mutual. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so nice. And also thank you for creating a safe space to be vulnerable and talk about these things that might be a little nerve-wracking. It's just been so lovely to actually, virtually meet you.
I know. Hopefully it's in person.
Thank you so much for having me.
Next time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, Bree. Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.